Hey guys, welcome. It's me, Tamika, and I'm a board certified psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. You already know I also go by the name The Flagrant Psych MP. And on this channel, I make mental health educational videos mainly because I want to do my part to help empower you to feel like you can take control of your mental health, to have conversations with your mental health providers, with your colleagues, with your family, whatever, right? And I also want to do my part to help break the stigma surrounding mental illness. And so, if you are new here, welcome. If you're part of my faithful 22 subscribers, welcome back. You can see that today's video is a little bit different. I've been playing around with the format of the videos actually. The last video was a vlog. Today's video, you see we have a different setting, a different background. I'm actually in my family room because I want to get a little bit more intimate and personal with you. And today's video is actually going to be a get to know me. So I've probably uploaded maybe about 4 or so videos so far, and it just kind of dawned on me like you never really formally introduce yourself to your audience. And so that's what I'm going to do today. I have actually generated a few questions that I thought you might like to learn or know about me. And then there are also a couple of questions sprinkled in there that were actually posed by other people. And so we're going to get into that today. And so if you enjoy that type of content, sit back, relax. You're in for a treat today. So let's get started. So if I'm being completely honest, nursing was never something that I had my eyes set on. I'm being honest, right? Now I can remember like being a kid. I always felt like I wanted to be in the medical field. I thought I was going to be a doctor. I can remember telling people I'm going to be the first person to discover the cure for AIDS, but never a nurse. Never, never that. Um, Got sidetracked with that whole dream of going into the healthcare industry. I actually ended up, when I graduated school, I ended up going to Wayne State University and getting into their fashion design program because I'm a creative. I love anything design, whether it's fashion design, event design, interior design. So I was on that pathway for a minute. Um, got distracted there, ended up getting a job because life was life. And so I had to actually get a job. And I started working for one of the big three here in Detroit. Yeah, so I started working for one of the big three. Knew I definitely did not want to retire from the big three. So I entertained school again. And so I re entered another fashion design program. I probably studied fashion design for about 6 months. Then I transitioned into interior design, which I found that I loved a lot more than fashion design. And I probably stuck with that for about 6 months before I just couldn't keep up with that either. Eventually, though, at the big three jobs, they started offering buyouts, and that really piqued my interest because I'm like, okay, this can give me an opportunity to kind of pivot into something different. I just didn't know what then. But at the time, my now husband, I used to have these conversations with him, and he was always telling me how he wanted to be a nurse. And I just thought that was so odd because I had never met a man who had such a desire to be a nurse. And he would always try to encourage me to do the same thing. And I'm like, I don't know. But, now with this buyout looming, I did start doing some additional research on what would that look like. I always wanted to be in the medical field anyway. So what would that look like? I already had college credits. What would that transition look like? So I ended up taking the buyout, long story short, and I actually started a nursing program. I did a 2-year nursing program initially. I had to do a whole year of prerequisites first, though. Let's be clear. I had to do that. And then the nursing program itself was 2 years. So I ended up graduating with an associate's degree in nursing. And then I took the NCLEX shortly after. I passed on my first try, and I've been a registered nurse since 2012. So after I got my associate's degree in nursing, I went to the University of Michigan, the Flint campus, and got my bachelor's degree in nursing, my BSN. And then my nursing experience ranges from home care, skilled nursing facilities, the inpatient psychiatric hospital, acute care, where I worked on the palliative and hospice care unit. Fast forward to 2018, I think. I love nursing. I didn't love floor nursing, so I wasn't working on the floor at the time when I made the decision to kind of go into get my master's degree to level up. I was working at a health insurance company. I worked in their quality department where I worked a lot with providers and making sure that they had enough staff to provide access to care. One of the things I learned about being in that quality department is that access to mental health, it was shot. Like, we had providers for our, medical providers for patients who needed medical care. But when it came to mental health, these patients were waiting months on end to see psychiatrists. Patients didn't even know they had options. You could see a psychiatrist, you could see a psychologist, you could see a therapist. It was just a mess. And so that was really one of the things that influenced me to kind of pivot or go into that mental health field. I knew I wanted my master's degree. That was, unspoken. I knew I wanted that. But, seeing all of the disparities when I was in that quality department at the healthcare company really helped. It was like the catalyst for me going into that mental health realm and becoming a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. Also, mental illness runs in my family. A lot of people don't talk about that a lot, but mental illness runs in my family. And I knew early on that I wanted to do my part to help decrease the stigma surrounding mental illness. So I don't know if it's one moment, but I see this every day. I work on three different platforms. I have my private practice, and then there's two other platforms that I work on as a contractor, 1099 per se. And the one thing that I see, the trend that I see from platform to platform to platform, is that patients appreciate when you take the time to see them as people and slow down and explain things to them and ask questions. Treat it like a collaborative relationship, because I hear so many patients say or tell me that their provider patient relationships are like or authoritative, where the provider is telling you this is what we're going to do. They don't give you a chance to ask any questions. They don't want your insight. They're just kind of telling you what to do. And I don't practice from that perspective. I always tell my patients this is going to be a collaborative effort. I'm going to give you my best clinical advice based on my clinical knowledge and training and experience. But at the end of the day, this is your life, and you got to kind of decide what's best for you. I can come up with the greatest treatment plan ever, but if you don't have the resources to actually do everything in that treatment plan, it's useless to you. So I got to meet you where you are. We collaborate and come up with a treatment plan that actually works for you. And patients appreciate that. Like, I hear it so much. So that is the one thing that is really like gratifying for me and solidifies, like, this is why you're doing what you're doing. You're doing the right thing. So mental wellness and mental illness are two different terms, but I think a lot of times they're used interchangeably, but that's not absolutely correct. And so picture it like this. Mental wellness is on this side of a continuum, and then you have mental illness on this side of the continuum. You can fall anywhere between. Anybody can fall anywhere between on that continuum. Mental wellness is about learning how to adjust and just be resilient. When you start to notice that you're moving down that continuum closer to that mental illness, you are able to kind of bounce back from that. You do things, whether it's lifestyle adjustments like getting good sleep, looking at your nutrition regimen, making sure that you're eating well, exercise, going to therapy, and you're utilizing all of these tools and skills so that you help get yourself back to that mental wellness side of the continuum. And so mental wellness essentially is just being able to successfully manage your mental health to the point where you don't fall too far down that continuum and you're actually dealing with a mental illness. So some of the things that I do to try to help maintain my mental wellness is, I like to indulge in watching, not too, I don't want to say that I do this too much because I told y'all not to be on the phones too much, but I do. I like to watch YouTube videos of luxury interior design homes. I like to clean my house. Cleaning is very therapeutic for me. I know my boundaries, right? As a provider, I'm really on the clock 24/7, sending scripts, responding to messages. But I know I can't do that 24/7. So I set clear boundaries. Maybe I'll send some scripts and do messages on this day. Tomorrow is a me day. I love my patients, but I'll see you guys when I come back into the office. So I set realistic boundaries. I spend a lot of time with my family. I'm getting out and doing things that I enjoy. And all of those things help me to kind of maintain my own mental wellness. So in my practice, my private practice and the other two platforms that I work on, I mainly treat patients who want to be evaluated and managed for ADHD and mild to moderate depression and anxiety. Sometimes there's a little bit of bipolar disorder sprinkled in there, and that's because sometimes I get a lot of patients who come to me with a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, and they're questioning it because it looks a lot like ADHD, but that's a topic for another video. But a little bipolar trauma. I see a lot of trauma patients. Unfortunately, that's something that a lot of people deal with and they don't know that they're dealing with. A little bit of OCD. I don't do any type of severe persistent mental illnesses like schizoaffective, schizophrenia. There are providers out there who thrive in those areas, but that's not my passion. My passion is ADHD. Um, you know, I love evaluating for ADHD, educating patients about what ADHD is, letting them know what the treatment options are, letting them know how the disorder presents. Sometimes it presents different in men than it does in women. So I love all of the education that goes behind ADHD. Right now, there's a huge stigma surrounding that disorder, and it's not necessarily the disorder itself, but it's those medications that we use to help manage ADHD. Um, the stimulants like Adderall, Vyvanse, Concerta, Ritalin. Unfortunately, those are being heavily abused. But if you actually have ADHD and I prescribe one of those medications to you, it's actually life changing. And I love being a part of that experience with my patients. So, ADHD is my passion again, but I do treat mild to moderate depression and anxiety, as I stated that before. So, I love learning and I'm always learning. And I tell my patients all the time, just because I'm a nurse practitioner, I don't propose to know everything. So I'm always learning and trying to develop myself. And that could look like me just going on YouTube and listening to other experts in the field, especially ADHD experts. I'm reading articles. I remember being in school and I'm like, why are we reading these articles? This is so stupid. But now I actually find myself reading articles on my free time, learning about evidence and, you know, but yeah, I'm always listening to other experts in the fields. I join certain you know, boards like on Facebook where there's other like-minded professionals like myself. We kind of bounce questions off of each other. I have friends that I went to nurse practitioner school with. We still keep in touch. We're bouncing cases off of each other. I have my collaborator in Michigan. Unfortunately, we still need a supervising physician, but I have a great supervising physician that goes over my cases every month, and is always providing me constructive criticism on how to look at new cases or approach new cases. So I'm learning that way. I'm reading. And so again, to try to just avoid burnout, I'm making sure that I'm setting clear boundaries. There's only so much that I can do. I'm human. So I listen to my body. If I'm starting to get headaches, if I'm starting to get hangry or irritated, I need a break. And so again, I typically just kind of tap into the things that I know that I enjoy so that I'm not burning myself out. So I kind of touched on this in the opening, right? A lot of what I do is because I want to empower patients to take control of their mental health. I don't want patients to feel like when they meet with their providers, it's a one-sided relationship. Again, this is your life. Even after you leave that doctor's office, you need to be equipped with the tools and skills to know what to do so that you can successfully manage your mental health. And part of my mission or vision in starting this YouTube channel, again, was giving you the tools and skills and knowledge that you need to be able to do that. So that's why I started the channel. So the one thing that I want to talk on, or myth that I think surrounds mental illness, is that if you have a mental illness, that there is something wrong with you. So I am here to contend that 100%. And I tell my patients that you would be pretty hard pressed to find anybody walking on this earth that is not contending with some type of mental something. Remember, we talked about that continuum where you have mental wellness and you have mental illness. It just all depends on where you fall on that continuum and how resilient you are. Are you able to bounce back and get yourself more towards the mental wellness side of things? Some people are and some people are not, but that does not mean that there's something wrong with you. Just like if you assess that your blood pressure is high, right? You're going to go see a doctor to try to get your blood pressure under control. If you assess that your mental wellness is just slipping and it's heading more towards that mental illness side of things, it's okay to seek help and get a provider. I tell my patients, I commend you for having the insight to know that something is wrong and stepping up and actively trying to seek help, because a lot of people don't have the insight to know that. But part of what I want to do in decreasing that stigma surrounding mental illness is letting people know that having a mental illness does not make you weak. And another thing is that mental health and physical health are very, very closely connected. It's hard to have one be optimal if you're ignoring the other. So you got to pay attention to both sides of the spectrum, your mental health and your physical health. That's how you're going to get the best outcomes from both. So don't feel weak if you have a mental illness. Seek the support that you need. So one of the things I think that came out of me actually transitioning into this mental health professional role is being able to educate my children about mental health. Mental health, and we talked about this, is heavily stigmatized, but especially in the Black community, um, we just don't talk about it enough. A lot of times, you'll hear some people say that it's not real at all. They kind of just brush things under the rug. If you're dealing with something, you either got to pray about it, shut up about it, or work harder. But I'm glad that I have the insight to kind of educate my kids about mental health, mental wellness, mental illnesses, and just have open, honest conversations with me. And I'm glad now that in this professional role, I'm able to support them in areas where I probably wouldn't have had much information or insight about before, and would not have been able to support them as well. So I think that's one of the things that has come out of me um, being a psych NP and being able to apply that to my family life as well. So self-care for me, and I kind of talked about this a little bit. It really just really boils down to me making sure that I'm creating boundaries for myself. Like I know me, I know when I'm on the cusp of burnout. My husband knows me. He knows when I'm on the cusp of burnout. And so that may look like me just, you know, going into my bedroom, putting on a good movie. Also like to listen to white noise. That's something that I do quite frequently. A nice thunderstorm in the background on my TV. Lighting a candle. I love Bath and Body Works eucalyptus and spearmint candle. That thing is, whew, that's life changing for me. It's a stress relief candle. When they say it's stress relief, it's really stress relief. So that's like the signature scent in my home. When I know I need to relax, I'll throw that on. Again, cleaning is soothing for me. I love cleaning my house. I love decorating my house. If I need to take a walk, I can do that. Shopping is therapeutic. You can find me on Temu any day of the week. Even if I'm not buying nothing, I'm scrolling and I'm putting stuff in my basket. That makes me feel good. Watching luxury interior design tours, we kind of talked about that. So those are some of the things that I do to try to engage in self-care. I also like a nice bubble bath. So sometimes I'll put on a nice hot bubble bath with a glass of wine, get my iPad tablet and put on a good movie and just relax. So those are some of the things that I like to do to indulge in self-care. If my family had to describe me in 3 words, they would call me feisty, creative, powerful. That came from my son in the background. Thank you, son.
Coffee or tea?
T.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning.
Give us your favorite mental health quote or mantra.
Count your small wins as big wins.
What's one book or podcast that changed how you think about mental health?
The body keeps a score, which kind of explains how the body responds to trauma.
What's your favorite guilty pleasure TV show or activity?
Binge watching, luxury interior design, home tours.
You can teleport anywhere right now. Where would you go?
Egypt,
What's your favorite movie you can rewatch?
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
What's one thing you can't live without?
My family,
What's your go-to self-care activity on a rough day?
scrolling Pinterest.
And lastly, give one piece of advice you give to someone watching right now who's struggling.
I would say lean into your support system. If you have a good support system, lean into them. Let them know what's going on. Some people can relate to what you're going through. They might even be able to help you connect with resources if you don't have the energy or the know how to do it yourself. And just keep pushing. You're doing the best that you can. Keep pushing. All right, guys, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's Q&A and getting to know a little bit more about me, the Flagrant Psych MP. If there's any questions that we didn't address today and you want me to answer them, go ahead and drop them in the comment box below. I love engaging with you guys. Don't be shy. Go ahead and hit like for me on this video if you enjoyed this content today. That helps to improve this channel on the algorithm. And turn on notifications. That way you're notified the next time I drop a video. So until next time, thanks for joining and take care of yourself. Bye.
Take a whole day to recognize sunshine.
When you need someone, I will be by your side. Hold on. There is a light that shines. That's
Yeah.
for you and me.
Yeah, check it. It's kind of fresh. You listen to more than hip hop, and I can catch you in the mix from beauty to thrift shop. Plus, you ship hop when it's time to think you fresh. Suggesting beats I should rhyme to it.